Shall we start, sir? Shall we start?
Just a moment, sir. Just a second. Huh?
Yeah.
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 In fact, I think, sir, today I am facing the problem of. In fact, sir, I think today I am facing the problem of internet connectivity. That's why it is not happening.
Oh.
Yeah, that is the main reason. Now I got it. Let me just find it because this usually has not happened earlier. That's why, because this is 20th, almost more than 20 sessions we had earlier, but none of
Yeah.
this type of problem has occurred. But anyway, let me just find out because that recording will always remain with me. Yeah, because
So today is a
net.
public holiday, na?
It's maybe because of that the data usage might have increased. Just a moment. Let me find out. So basically, it is not a issue with this thing, not a issue with the way we are doing it. The issue is only with the internet because it is showing red now. Otherwise, it has to be green. The streaming part which comes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, it doesn't matter. We can start because recording. We are going to have that recording. Don't worry. Recording will remain.
Okay.
Okay. So, sir, I request you to kindly proceed with your session, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can, sir, later on share YouTube link with me so that.
Exactly. Once I upload it, then I'll be doing that. Don't worry.
Okay, sir. So thank you again to Mukul sir for giving me this opportunity, and let's start with our session. Okay, friends, let me start with my presentation now. Okay. Is it visible? Is it
Yes.
visible to all
Uh,
participants?
yes, sir. Yes.
Hello? Yeah, yeah. So let me start with a slideshow. Of course, it's a, let's say, it is very difficult, to uh, cover all the units in this legal aspect of business. But let's say in consultation with Mukul sir, I have covered the most important laws. Okay, of course, for the other laws, I will tell you in nutshell. Okay, but even you people must have, you can understand that it is difficult to cover the entire syllabus in say 1 hour or 1 hour 30 minutes or whatever. Okay, so let's not waste time. Okay, and I'm going to share this PPT with all of you. As far as legal aspect of business is concerned, we have following laws. Okay, the Indian Contract Act 1872, the Sale of Goods Act 1930, Negotiable Instruments Act 1881, Companies Act 2013, Limited Liability Partnership Act 2008, Competition Act, Information Technology Act 2000, the RTI Act, Intellectual Property Rights, and Goods and Service Tax, that is GST. Okay. Uh, Let me tell you in advance, because of paucity of time, we are going to cover, of course, that too also in nutshell, the Indian Contract Act, Sale of Goods Act, Negotiable Instruments Act, Companies Act, then Competition Act. Okay. As far as IT Act is concerned, or RTI, Intellectual Property Rights, even GST, I will tell you in nutshell. Okay, because it's not possible to cover the entire lot in this limited time. So let's not waste time. Let's begin with Indian Contract Act. At any point of time, suppose you have a, let's say, if you doubt, difficulty, you can unmute yourself and talk to me. I will try to resolve your doubts. Okay, let's begin with Indian Contract Act. Of course, as I said, and even Sir said, that it's not possible to cover each and every concept also. Now, when we say Indian Contract Act, what we need to first of all consider is the object of that law and the nature of that act. Okay, as we can see here, the law of contract. Okay, law of contract is that branch of law which determines the circumstances in which promises made by parties to the contract shall be legally binding on them. Now, what do you mean by that? See, we keep on making promises to each other. Okay, sometimes to our parents, sometimes to our friends. Okay, But if that other person doesn't fulfill, okay, we cannot take that person to court of law. Okay, so the object of contract act is it studies only that part or such kind of promises which are legally binding on each other. That means if either party doesn't fulfill, the party who has suffered can take that other party to the court of law. That is the object. And nature of the act is this act consists of limiting principles subject to which parties may create a contract. Very simple example. There is no restriction, there is no list in contract act which type of contract you can enter into. Okay, but there is a limiting principles that what you cannot do. So if your contract fits into that, then it's a valid contract. Like one simple example I would like to ask you, okay, that in any shopping mall or shopping complex, do you get drugs available for sale? Anything. Now don't go by my example. What I'm trying to tell you, please understand. Drugs, are they available freely? Hello? उसके ऊपर GST भी लगाते हैं, suppose anything like, hello, am I audible? Am I audible?
You're not audible properly, sir.
Hello, now audible? Now audible?
Yes.
Yes. So my question is, this when we are learning about nature of the act, as I said, there are limiting principles. See, at any point of time, if my voice is not clear, please let me know about it. And if you have not heard anything, this consists of limiting principles. Means what? There are limitations set out that your contract must fit in this, then only it is like a valid contract, otherwise not. Okay, otherwise not. That's what I said, that there is no list in contract act that which type of contract you may enter into, which type of contract you may not. Okay, but there are principles what you cannot do. That's why I ask you that, let's say buying and selling of drugs, it's also type of a contract, it's also type of an agreement, but is it freely happening in any shopping mall or a market? Hello?
No, sir, no.
No, because it is unlawful, it is illegal. So that is, though it is a kind of contract but not covered in the contract act because of these limiting principles. Now, which are these limiting principles? We are going to see in the next slide. As you can see here, these are the essentials of valid contract. Offer and acceptance. There has to be, first of all, offer and acceptance. Then there has to be intention to create legal relationship. Intention to create legal relationship means parties must able to bind each other legally. Okay. Then there has to be free consent. Then capacity of the parties must be competent to contract, which is covered in capacity of parties to contract. Then there the consideration. Consideration means something in return which both parties get. That should be lawful. Now, when I gave you example, sale of drugs, the drugs is a unlawful activity, sale of drugs. So that is why it will not get covered here. Then the object of the contract. Object means the purpose of the contract also should be lawful. The terms of contract must be certain. There must be certainty of terms. Okay, it must be possible to perform, and all legal formalities required should be carried out neatly. Like simple example, if A wants to sell his vehicle to B, the legal formality is RTO registration. Okay, RC book should be transferred in the buyer's name. Okay, all these should be carried out. So if your contract fits into this, then it will be called as valid contract. Clear? Hello, everyone? Clear about this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, when we said capacity of parties, okay, what do you mean by that? The capacity to contract means competence of parties to enter into contract, whether they are competent to enter into contract or not. Now, section 10 requires, just now in the previous slide, you learned that the parties to be competent to contract. The section 11 lays down that every person is competent to contract who is of age of majority according to law to which he is subject. He should be of sound mind and not disqualified from contracting by any law to which he is subject. So indirectly, just read this once again, okay? Who is of age of majority, who is of sound mind and not disqualified. So indirectly what they are trying to tell us, that minor, person of unsound mind and say insolvent. Now insolvent is just one example, cannot enter into contract. Okay, minor. Indirectly, what lawmakers have said, minor, person of unsound mind and say insolvent, they cannot enter into contract. Okay. Now, see, these are the reasons for incapacity. It may be due to status, it may be due to mental deficiency, it may be due to unsoundness of mind. Okay. By status, the diplomatic staff of foreign sovereign, they are incompetent to contract. Alien enemy. Now, word alien, what do you mean by alien, by the way? Hello? Alien? Please don't say jadoo.
The
Huh?
alien is no
For another
the
country.
person
Correct,
from another
right.
country, sir.
So, alien enemy. See, when we are using term alien enemy, there has to be term of alien friend also. Okay. Alien friend means the citizen of that country with whom government of India is not at war. So, alien enemy is a citizen of that country with whom Republic of India is at war. So, we cannot enter into contract with alien enemy. Convict, then corporation, and insolvent person. Okay, I don't know what has happened. Insolvent person. Then mental deficiency and unsound mind. If that person is mentally unsound, then you can't enter into contract. Okay. From here we move to free consent. Okay, as I said, we have to quickly cover many laws. Okay. Now consent means acquiescence. Now acquiescence means act of assenting, means saying yes, willingly saying yes to enter into contract. The essence of every agreement is that there should be free consent on both sides. See, if there is no free consent on both sides, the contract cannot get materialized. If one party is willing to enter into contract and other party is not, the contract cannot be fruitful or it cannot get materialized. But see this, two or more persons are said to consent when they agree upon the same thing in the same sense. Okay? See, when they can enter into a lawful contract, when they understand the same thing in the same sense and the same manner. In Latin, it is called as consensus ad idem. Deliberately, I have highlighted that. Suppose MCQ comes on this, you should be able to answer that. That is understanding the same thing in the same sense and same manner. Simple example, A tells B that I wish to sell my bungalow. Okay. Here A is the owner of two bungalows, one in Mumbai, other is in Pune. A is willing to sell bungalow in Pune, but B feels he is offering bungalow in Mumbai. So we can't say that they are at consensus ad idem. So there cannot be a valid contract. They cannot enter into fruitful contract because of that. Okay. Now when we say consent is not free, okay, when we can say so, if it is caused by coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation or mistake. Coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation or mistake, then only. Okay, so you can go through the book, let's say, not only the book, let's say for NET exam, but even at undergrad level also at SY BCom, and let's say you have business law, or let's say whichever level, let's say if you are from different university, in Mumbai University we have it at SY level, okay, you can go through it, okay. Now the discharge of contract, how contract may get discharged. Discharge means end of contractual obligation. Okay, discharge of contract means termination of the contractual relation between the parties to a contract. A contract is said to be discharged when the rights and obligations of parties under contract come to an end. See, whenever we enter into contract, it gives us some right as well as it puts on us some obligation. When we get rid of that, okay, that is a discharge of contract. Very simple example. I offer my house to somebody, okay, and that fellow says yes. Okay, here there is a right on part of both parties which we enjoy. My right is to get money or a consideration for my house, and that for that party, the right is to get ownership of that house. At the same time, my obligation is to hand over the ownership, okay, to that person, and that person's obligation is to make payment. Okay, so when we get rid of these rights and obligation, that is called a discharge of contract. That is what is called as discharge of contract. Clear? Hello? Clear to you? Okay. Now contract may get discharged. Contract may get discharged by all these. ये जो chart है उसमें जो दिया हुआ है. Okay. with this. It may be by performance, that means you actually perform your part of contract, or by tender. Tender, the another word to that is attempted performance. The another word to tender is attempted performance. Or by mutual consent, both parties decide. Okay? It may be by novation, alteration, waiver, rescission, remission, merger. Okay, now to give you a quick idea about this, novation, either party to the contract changes or the new contract substitutes the old contract. In alteration, some terms are changed of the old contract. Waiver, the performance is waived by other party, that you don't perform. Rescission, both parties decide to resign the contract. Rescission word has come from to resign, that means to cancel. Remission is from, let's say, remission is like this: accepting a lesser sum or lesser term than what was contracted. Very simple example I'll give you. A has given loan to B of rupees 5,000. Now B pleads that I can't give you this 5,000 rupees. And B says, how much you can pay? He says, I can pay you 3,000. Okay, give me 3,000, I will settle the contract. So it is accepting a lesser sum than what was contracted for. Okay, that is what is remission. And last one is merger. Now don't assign the term. Yes. Okay. Anyone? Sorry. The last one is merger. Okay. Now merger exactly doesn't mean here the concept of merger which you have learned in accountancy. Here merger of a let's say inferior right into the superior right. Merger of inferior right into superior right. Simple example: somebody was a tenant in particular property. Okay, somebody who is a tenant in a particular property. Okay, but what happens? Later on, the owner sells that property to the tenant. So automatically, till yesterday, you are just the user of the property, and tomorrow onwards, you will start. You will become the owner. So your inferior right get merged with the superior right. So the old contract gets discharged by mutual consent. So this is by mutual consent. Then by subsequent impossibility. While discussing the MCQ also I talked about it, if you remember. It covers destruction of subject matter. Suppose A and B, they are talking about A wants to sell his car to B. Okay. So the subject matter of contract is that car. But both of them are not aware that something happens and not because of either party's fault, that car gets destroyed by fire. Okay. So now what they are going to sell? Scrap? No, not possible. So it was a possible contract but turned into impossible. Then death or disablement of a person. Suppose particular actor has signed a film. Okay. After signing the film, then it was very much possible. If he dies, now it is no more possible. It has become impossible. So the contract gets destroyed. Subsequent illegality. Firstly it was legal. Then government puts a ban on it. Very simple example. Earlier, let's say, it was very easy to sell plastic carry bags. But then government of Maharashtra put ban on it. Okay, so because of now, it is illegal. Or due to war, or non-existence of a particular state of law. Means when you enter into contract, the situation was different. But now situation is very
simple example. A gets engaged with B. Okay, because marriage is also lawful contract in eyes of law. A gets engaged with B, but after engagement, without any fault on part of A, B goes unsound, or B becomes person of unsound mind. So here there is a change in situation which was not there earlier. Now it is impossible to continue with this contract. Then by operation of law, death or insolvency. Death already I have explained. Insolvency, the person who is insolvent, he is incompetent to enter into contract, or it may be because of breach of contract, anticipatory or actual, about which I will talk later on. Then what is breach of contract? Understand? Okay. It means breaking of obligation which a contract imposes. I told you about just now about obligation. When you break that or we don't perform, that amounts to breach of contract. It occurs when a party to a contract without lawful excuse does not fulfill his contractual obligation, or by his own act make it impossible. That means simple. He says that I'm not going to perform. Okay? That he should perform under it. It confers the right of action for damages. So the party who has suffered, or that is called an aggrieved party, okay, they get the right to claim a damages. Damages means monetary compensation. There can be anticipatory breach or actual breach. Now what is the difference? Anticipatory breach means before due date. Suppose I have to deliver 50 kgs of rice on say 30th of April. So today only I tell that person to whom I am going to deliver, I am not going to deliver. That is before due date. So it is called an anticipatory breach. Actual breach means either on that day I tell that person I am not going to deliver. Okay, like on 30th April I tell that person. That is also actual breach. Or even during performance of contract. Now what do you mean by during performance? Please understand. Suppose to particular person I have to deliver every month 50 kgs of rice for next 12 months. I deliver it for 6 months, and after 6 months I tell that fellow that I am not going to deliver. Okay? That is during performance, which also falls under the category of actual breach of contract. Okay? Then consequences, party suffered can avoid the contract and claim damages, that is monetary compensation. Okay, these are the different type of damages which you can claim. First you can see is the ordinary damages. Ordinary damage is nothing but a rate difference between contract price and market price. Special damages is nothing but let's say you have lost the special opportunity to earn profit. Okay, for loss of profit it is claimed. Okay, but that special circumstances that if you don't do it, I'm going to lose I'm going to lose that opportunity to earn profit. That should be conveyed to other party. Then vindictive damages. In vindictive damages, the punishment will be provided. Okay, actual punishment will be provided, but vindictive damages you can claim only in two circumstances. One is breach of promise to marry, and second, if banker wrongfully dishonors your check. Only in that case. Nominal damages. Here, actual monetary damages are not claimed. Many times it is just a compensation of ₹1 is claimed. Okay, it is just to prove that I am right, you are wrong. For that, the nominal damages are claimed. Actually speaking, Contract Act is such that you need at least say 20 clock hours to understand only Contract Act. But we have to go ahead. Liquidated damages and penalty. Okay, what is that? Liquidated damages. Understand? Both parties in the contract itself put a clause that suppose there is a contract between A and B, that if B commits breach, how much loss A would suffer, that B will pay, and vice versa. Penalty is disproportionate to the contract. Okay, contract amount deliberately put up in the contract that if either party doesn't perform, you have to pay 10 times the contract amount or something like that. That is a penalty. Then stipulation for interest, very simple. Even if we pay our utility bills after due date, we have to pay interest on that. Okay, so or even the credit card payment. So stipulation of interest. Stipulation means terms and conditions. Forfeiture of security deposit. Like if you see your utility bills, like telephone bills, there is a deposit amount. Now why do they take deposit amount? So that if that person doesn't pay bill on time, the deposit will be forfeited first. Okay. Then specific performance, I have already told you while explaining MCQs that party is not interested in say receiving compensation, but that other party's performance. And injunction is like a stay order. If particular person has promised not to do something and he does that, the other party may bring injunction. Like simple example देता हूँ. Nowadays in let's say television serials or something like that, there is an exclusivity clause. Okay. Now what do you mean by that? If you are working for our TV serial, you can't work for others. So that is the exclusivity clause. So if that fellow tries to act in other production house serial, this production house can bring injunction. And quantum merit also I have explained. Whatever you have done, that much you should get. Okay. Any doubt so far? Hello? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Hello? Okay. Awesome. I hope you people are understanding whatever, let's say, is going on. Hello? Yeah? Yeah. Now let's learn contract of indemnity. As you can see in this picture, likely you know what is going to happen. So contract of indemnity is also like that. when you suffer a loss, okay, it saves you. See, to indemnify means making losses good. A contract of indemnity is a contingent contract. It is entered into with the objective to protecting the promisee against anticipated loss. Like best example is insurance contract. Now, yeah, I have given here definition and all that. Okay, let's not waste time because this definition you'll find in book also, and I'm going to share this with you. There are two parties. Okay, see, two parties. The person who promises to compensate is called as indemnifier, and to whom such promise is made is called an indemnity holder. Now you tell me, reading this point, in contract of in insurance, who is indemnifier and who is indemnified? Quickly.
The indemnified means the insurance company?
No. Indemnified means we, for people. Indemnifier is an insurance company because they make us promise or not that they will compensate. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So the contract of indemnity covers only the express promises to indemnify. Okay. Cases where loss is caused by the conduct of the promisor or any other person, but it does not cover the implied promises to compensate loss caused not due to conduct of promisor. Life insurance contract. Your life insurance contract is and by act of God. Okay, act of gods are not covered. Then you will say, sir, how people take flood insurance or something like that. In that regard, let me tell you, there was one court case, Gajanan Moreshwar versus Moreshwar Madan, and in that court case, see, our contract act is of 1872. That means during the British rule. So courts in India and our contract act is based on English law of contract. Okay. So, courts in India, in this particular case, refer to English law of contract where act of gods are covered. That is why it can be, covered and you can get compensation for that. Okay. Now, what are the rights of indemnity holder? Right to recover damages, right to recover cost, whatever he has incurred, right to recover sums paid under compromise, right to sue for specific performance. As far as rights of indemnifier are concerned, they are silent, they are same as surety. अभी एक best part समझ. Whatever are rights of indemnity holder, they are duties of indemnifier and vice versa. जो इसका right है वो इसका duty है and vice versa. Clear? Hello? Clear to you? Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Clear. Now, contract of guarantee. Now, plenty of time it happens that when you take a bank loan, bank asks for a guarantor. Now, why they need guarantor? Can anyone tell me quickly? Why they need guarantor?
If they default the loan, so bank can approach the guarantor.
Guarantor, yes. So he assures the performance of that person to whom bank gives loan. Okay, see this. A contract of guarantee is a contract to perform the promise or discharge the liability of a third person in case of his default. A guarantee may be either oral or written. Okay, it can be, but it's a tripartite contract. Three parties: principal debtor, creditor, and surety. See, what they have used term is not debtor, just principal debtor, because he is the one who is going to pay first. If he fails, then only surety comes into picture. Okay, that is why he is called a principal debtor. So these are the essentials of contract of guarantee. It may be written or oral. There need not be a direct consideration between surety and creditor. Now, what do you mean by that? See, मुझे loan चाहिए तो मेरा friend surety है. If he is a surety, is he going to get anything from bank? Is he going to get anything from bank? No, he is not going to get anything from bank. Okay, so that is what there need not be any direct consideration. The principal debtor may be a minor. In such a case, surety will be liable. The liability of surety is collateral or secondary. First is that of principal debtor. Okay, then the liability of surety is collateral. That we have done. Then it is not a contract of uberimi fedi. Uberimi fedi means such contract where you have to disclose the full details. Unless asked by surety, creditor need not disclose full details. There should be an existing liability or a future one. Anything. पहले से एक है या तो बाद में होने वाला है. The liability of surety, unless agreed to otherwise, co-extensive with that of principal debtor. That means first, again and again, first is the liability of principal debtor, then that of surety. Such contract requires concurrence of all three parties. Without concurrence means without consent of all three parties, without knowledge of all three parties, this such type of contract cannot come into picture. Kind of guarantees, specific continuing fidelity. Now quickly I will explain. Specific guarantee is only for that particular contract, okay, which can be which is irrevocable in nature. Continuing guarantee is for series of transactions, and fidelity guarantee is about the good conduct or honesty of a person. Okay, now many times when you are newly recruited, you have been asked to give references or something like that. Okay, that is kind of a fidelity guarantee. Okay. Now contract of bailment. See, we enter into contract of bailment plenty of times. Okay, most commonly, as you can see in this picture, when the entire family goes out, we keep keys with the neighbors. That is also contract of bailment. We take book from a friend. We take a ride of a bike from a friend. Okay, all that comes under contract of bailment. The term bailment is derived from the French word baillir, which means to deliver, as defined under section 148. The delivery of goods by one to another person for some purpose. See, अभी इसमें तुम लोग एक simple example देखो. You give your watch for repair to watchmaker. You give your car to garage for a servicing. You give a cloth to a tailor to stitch, or you take a book from a library. The delivery of goods by one to another person for some purpose upon a contract that they shall, when the purpose is accomplished, watch repair हो गया, वापस दे दिया, car repair हो गया, वापस है, accomplished, is accomplished, be returned or otherwise disposed of according to the directions of the person delivering them. जो direction देते हैं, like when you give cloth to a tailor, he doesn't use full cloth, some part is left out. Okay, he doesn't you don't take it back. Okay, it gets disposed of. Okay, there are two parties, bailor and bailey. The one who delivers is a bailor, one who to whom it is delivered, that fellow is called as bailey. Okay. Now essentials of valid bailment, there must be agreement, okay, which may be expressed or implied. Delivery of goods is also necessary. Now when we say delivery, complete control should be given, okay, and not just the custody. Then goods are generally delivered for some purpose. Return of the goods, it is important that the goods which form the subject matter should be returned after the purpose is over. Okay. Now these are the type of bailment. Okay, type of bailment on the basis of reward, gratuitous and non-gratuitous. Now please understand what you mean by that, gratuitous and non-gratuitous. Okay, gratuitous means, okay, where there will be no consideration. Now if you take a book from a friend, is he going to charge you anything? If you take a book from a friend, is he going to charge you anything? Hello? Hello?
No, sir.
No. But if you take a book from library, you pay library charges or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So gratuitous is without consideration. Non-gratuitous means with consideration. Again, simple example. You take a ride of a bike from a friend, he's not going to charge you. It's a gratuitous bailment. You go to Goa and you hire a two-wheeler, you have to pay. That is a non-gratuitous bailment. Okay? On the basis of benefit, bailment for the exclusive benefit of the bailor, the one who gives bailment for the exclusive benefit of the bailor. Second is who is for the exclusive benefit of the bailey, and for both. Okay, अभी थोड़ा सोचो, exclusive benefit of the bailor क्या हो सकता है? The one who delivers. Okay, very simple. Just now I said that when we go out, we keep keys with the neighbors. Why we keep it with neighbors? For safety. So it is whose benefit? Neighbor's benefit or your benefit? Our benefit. That is for the exclusive benefit of the bailor. For bailey, okay, suppose you couldn't complete notes today because you were absent in the college. So you take notebook of your friend. So you are going to get benefit. He is going to deliver. So then it will be for exclusive benefit of bailey. And for both, you can take any example. Car given to mechanic, cloth given to tailor. Both are going to get benefit out of it. Okay? So these are the examples. Then pledge, very simple. Pledge means girvi rana. Okay? Pledge means girvi rana. Pledge is the bailment of goods and security for payment of a debt or performance of promise. A pledge is thus kind of bailment where whoever
thing is bailed as a security, so immediately one MCQ, immovables cannot be bailed. Understand? The bailer in this case is called as pledger or powner. Bail is called as pledgee or powner. Understand? So the essentials, the delivery of goods, first of all, should be delivered, should be handed over to that fellow. Delivery as a security, security for payment of debt and movable property, but please remember this money cannot be pledged. So one more MCQ, probable MCQ. The ownership in goods remains with the powner and transfer of possession. Okay, these are the essentials. Now the last part of contract act, contract of agency. Okay, two important rules for contract of agency. Whatever a person can do personally can do through an agent. Means whatever I can do it through an agent. And he who doesn't act through another does it by himself. If my agent does something for me, it is as good as I have done it. Okay, let me repeat. Whatever a person can do personally, do through an agent. Means whatever I can do, I can assign that to agent. But one caution: contracts of personal nature cannot be given to you. Means personal nature means where your skills are required. Like now, I have to deliver lecture. If I appoint a secretary, I can't tell that person that you deliver on my name. Okay, so contracts of personal nature out of question. But whatever he does, that is agent, is as good as I have done. So again, the definition under section 182. An agent as a person employed to do any act for another, to represent another in dealing. The person for whom such act is done is called a principal. That contract is called as contract of agency. Okay. Now these are the duties of agent to conduct the business of agency according to principal's directions, to do the act with reasonable care, skill, diligence, to render proper accounts. Reasonable diligence means you have to apply yourself properly. In case of difficulty to communicate with principal, not to deal on his own account, should not do that, not to make any secret profits, not to disclose any confidential information, not to use information obtained in the course of agency, not to set up adverse title. Adverse title means he should not sell it on his own. Okay, with his title, title information like this. Okay, duty to exercise the authority person. That means he cannot appoint sub-agent without permission of the principal. Duty to protect and preserve rights of the principal. These are the rights. If you open any law book, okay, you will get all examples for that. Now we'll turn our attention to next law, that is sale of goods. So far clear, students? Whatever, I know that it is hurriedly we have to cover, but so far whatever I have explained, have you understood? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Now sale of goods act. Now let me tell you, earlier sale of goods act was chapter 7 of contract. It is carved it out. Like you can see the year also. Contract like 1872, sale of goods act 1950. Okay. A few important definitions we are going to study here. It means every kind of noble property other than actionable claims and money. Actionable claim means what? Let me tell you. Actionable claims means legal file, legal. I have filed a case against somebody. Can I sell that case? Where a case based now. No. Okay. What means? You can't say that. Where the action, legal action can be taken. And money, okay, money is not goods. Please remember, for MCQ purpose.
It includes stock, shares, gold, crop, grass,
And things attached to a common
part of land, which was earlier
part of land, which are agreed to be severe. You can pluck them, you can sell in the market. The crop, grass, you can cut it, sell in the market. So one thing, every kind of movables, immovables are not covered. Another thing, money is not goods. Okay, that you should understand. Okay, the buyer means a person who buys or agrees to buy goods. Okay, buyer means a person who buys or agrees to buy goods. Seller means a person who sells or agrees to sell goods. It covers not only the executed contract, but it covers executory contracts. Executory contracts means to be performed later. To be performed later. Okay, they are also covered. Then existing goods, future goods and specific goods. Okay, existing goods, very simple, which are readily available to the seller. This is their profession. Future goods, it means the goods to be manufactured or produced or property. Simple. You go to book stall, okay, and you ask for a particular book which is right now not available. He said, I will procure and I will give it to you. That is the future. Or you go to the hotel, you place order and after that they make it. That is the future. Okay? But again specific goods का clause करो or point करो and tell me in this one para how many type of goods they have covered. How many type of goods they have covered? Which two?
Uncertain.
Hmm? Yes, which one?
Uncertain and ascertain.
Ascertain and unascertain. That's it? No. There are three type of
Future goods also.
no. Future goods are covered in the earlier point.
Uncertainty, okay.
No. In this there are three type of goods. Unascertain, ascertain and specific. I'll give you one example, okay, and then you read it again and you will understand. Suppose you want to buy new mobile phone, okay. So what you will do, you will list down which features you would like to have in your new mobile phone, okay, which may be available with Nokia also, Samsung also, Oppo also, Vivo also, MI also. So, and you enter into mobile shop, that is what is unascertain. Okay, from that you select, okay, I want model, which one? This model of Vivo. Okay, that is ascertain. Okay, that is ascertain. Okay, okay, and after ascertain, I want this particular piece of this color, that is a specific piece. समझ में आया?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now keep this example in mind and read all this, and you will find three types.
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Able to relate.
Yeah. Then sale and agreement to sale. See, most important thing in sale of goods act is transfer of property, that is ownership. In sale, the property in the goods transfers immediately from seller to buyer. In agreement to sale, it will get transferred at a future date. It will get transferred at a future date. Just read this too, you'll understand.
Yes, sir. In sale it says directly transfer from seller to buyer, and in agreement it says in future
It will.
it will take place. Yeah, it will. Yeah.
Okay. Now cavity. Next concept is cavity. I have tried to cover all